Welcome to my first lecture on consequentialism. Here, in this lecture, I will discuss an introduction to consequentialism and its basic principles. So, this is the general claim of consequentialism. The consequences of an action are the ones that ultimately matter in judging whether the action is morally good or bad. So, as we have discussed before, the consequentialist or the teleologist position is concerned more on the consequences of the action. And the consequences, the results, will ultimately determine if the action is good or bad. The morality of an action, according to this ethical theory, is solely determined by the kind of consequences that the performance of the action leads to. Now, the good consequence, however, in this view does not refer to just any good. Okay, you might think that the consequentialist view considers anything that is good or pleasurable. I know that sometimes people are apprehensive in accepting this view, especially those who have strong faith in God, because usually it appears that the consequentialist idea or notion of goodness would undermine the actions that are really, really bad, if, or the actions that are really, really good as well, if the consequences are the ones that really matter. We have this intuition gained from our childhood training of morals, especially from the deontological view, that there are actions that are really, really good, no matter what the consequences. And likewise, there are actions that are really, really bad, no matter how much good it or these results do. So the usual apprehension we get in considering this position is the idea that I cannot accept sometimes that the means, the results will justify, the ends, no, the results will justify the means. No, yung nagiging tama yung gawain kasi nga maganda or mabuti yung kahinatnan, yung results. Kahit na masama yung action talaga that brought the good results. So to clarify that, consequentialists do not really refer to just any good. The consequentialist theory actually points to the good in itself or the desirable for its own sake. Okay? And this good, this kind of good is actually identified as the intrinsic good. Okay, so the consequentialist theorists actually refer to the intrinsic good and not just any good. So J.J.C. Smart said, what determines the goodness or badness of an act is not merely its various consequences, but solely by its intrinsic goodness or, of course, badness. Thus, a consequence must be good because it is intrinsically good and not just any good. Okay? So, this is to answer yung usual na apprehension natin in accepting this view. Okay? Now, to understand what an intrinsic good is, we must contrast it with another kind of good. Nami-mention na natin to in our previous discussions sa deontology. Okay? So, this is intrinsic good and this is instrumental good. What's the difference? Intrinsic good is desired for its own sake, not as a means to achieve something else. By the term itself, kitang-kita naman, no? Yung instrumental good is desired for the sake of something else. So meaning instrument lang talaga siya. It is a means, yan, an instrument, a way to achieve another instrumental good din, pwede yon, or an intrinsic good. Okay, so there are a lot of goods that you achieve, you try to pursue because it is used, no, or it is the only way by which you can achieve another good. And that good, that another good could be is still an instrumental good for yet another good that you are setting your eyes or you set your goals to. Okay? Magandang example niyan is why do you want to pass this ethics subject? Because it is good to pass. But not for its own sake. Siguro, no? You have other reasons why you want to pass this subject. Okay? That makes passing this ethics class an only instrumental good. It has a use that could allow you to achieve another good, which is you can finish this year, no, and finally enroll for the other school year or school term. Okay? Why do you want to enroll? Because another good is at the end of enrolling your subjects on time. You could get you can start other courses that would that would be a progress from your study plan, di ba? Or why do you want to pass or to graduate as a physical therapist? Is it good for its own sake? No, so that you can have a credential, a diploma that would allow you to take the exam for licensure. So instrumental good 'yon, no? Is passed or is taking the licensure exam good? Yes. But is it good for its own sake? Instrumental din siya because you must have a license, you must pass the exam to have the license. Ganon din sa engineering, no? Same din yung proseso. Tanggalin mo lang yung physical therapy, din palitan mo ng mga courses engineering na may mga board exams. Okay, so yun, no? Instrumental good yung mga yan. When we speak of intrinsic good, we are speaking of good for its own sake. Look at the examples for instrumental good. Career, relationship, health, wealth. Good lahat yan. Pero, notice that at the end of all your dreams and goals, itong lahat yan, is the pursuit of happiness. Okay? All other means to achieve happiness are instrumental goods. That is why a common intrinsic good identified by the consequentialist theory is actually happiness. And it is the only intrinsic good for some. Kasi may mga ibang consequentialist theories na they identify other goods as intrinsic. But just to show how different intrinsic good is from instrumental good, if you connect this to our discussions in Kant, di ba? Good yung mga to, pero there are times na nagagamit yan for bad results. Or you have bad motives for achieving those. Again, we are referring to intrinsic good na talagang for its own sake. Hindi na siya magagamit for another goods out there. You really want to achieve it. If you want to ask yourself sometime later or tonight, imagine you get whatever you want. You get money, you get career, you get everything. Won't you desire more? I think you will desire more and will realize that in the end, ito lang naman talaga yung gusto mo, no? Happiness. Okay, happiness. Okay, so the consequentialist theory refers to results that are good, and this good is intrinsic good, hindi lang just any instrumental good, no? We must be very clear on that. Here is a further difference between intrinsic and instrumental good. Intrinsic good is inherent and unconditional, while instrumental good is derived and conditional. Anong difference ng inherent at derived? Yung inherent ng intrinsic good is yung goodness ng intrinsic good na yan not derived from other goods. While the instrumental good derives its good from other goods. Kaya ito tinawag natin na good for its own sake. Okay? Kasi good siya talaga by nature. Ito, yung good nito derived. Hinahango lang, nadadamay lang, kumbaga, in some cases. Ano yung difference ng unconditional sa conditional? Unconditional good, walang kundi kondisyon. No matter what the situation is, it remains good. Even if no one desires it. Okay? Happiness is good even if, for example, human beings are extinct on this universe. Okay? Happiness will always be regarded as good, no conditions at all. Ito kasi, merong certain conditions na nagiging good siya. Okay? And if it does not serve someone else's desire, hindi nagiging good. Okay? For example, licensure exam is good for you, but not for me because I don't need it. Okay? I don't need licensure exam to be able to get a job. No? Okay. So if something is intrinsically good, our moral duty, according to the consequentialism, is to maximize it. Okay? Ito yung extension ng consequentialist theory, di ba? Something is good because it has good results. Our moral duty is to maximize and to increase it to its highest and greatest possible degree, yung goodness na yan na result. A morally good action maximizes its goodness through its consequences. So yun ang moral duty mo ngayon, no? Kailangan mong i-maximize yan. It is not enough, therefore, to strive to be happy. Dapat one should strive to attain the greatest possible happiness through our actions. Now, let's look at more considerations kung paano ginagamit yung consequentialism, generally speaking. Between an action that produces a good result that promotes an intrinsic good and one that produces a bad result that does not promote intrinsic good, obviously, ang morally good action ay yung ito. Okay? So if there are actions, yung isa produces and promotes intrinsic good and yung isa does not promote intrinsic good, syempre, ang morally good is to do this and to avoid the other. How about if actions that both produce good results in varying degrees? Meaning, good yung results ng dalawang action na yan, pero magkaiba yung degree ng goodness. The morally good action is the one which has greater good consequences. May dalawang choices ka, parehong good yung results. Ang pipiliin mo yung choice na mas maraming goodness, mas greater yung goodness nito. How about two actions that produce bad consequences in varying degrees? May dalawang choices ka. Tapos, parehong bad actions, pero varying degrees. The morally good action is choose the lesser bad of the two. Okay. Natural, yung lesser na bad, mas good naman siya compared doon sa mas bad. How about two actions having both good and bad consequences? Meaning, you act on something. And that action has simultaneous results. No? The other result is good, the other one is bad. The morally good action is one which has the greatest aggregate good consequences. Okay. Paano mo makukuha yung aggregate good consequences? I-add mo lahat ng goodness. Okay? Ng choice na yan. I-add mo lahat ng badness niya, tapos i-deduct mo. Okay, ima-minus mo. Later on, in utilitarianism, in Bentham, you will see a quantified way of doing this. Inassign ni Bentham ng points yon para ma-compute mo yung aggregate goodness, no? So ano ba talaga yung mas good sa mga choices mo? Kung sakaling may bad action, may bad result din yung choice. Mamimili ka, ang pipiliin mo, yung ang morally good action is the action that has the greatest sum of aggregate goods. And you get the aggregate good if you deduct the possible bad consequences that it contains or it entails. Okay? And that ends our introduction to the consequentialist theory.